Okay, what's up? This is what you should know so far in this unit. You should know how to solve a system by graphing. So we have two equations. Negative 3x minus y equals negative 2, and then 4y equals negative 12x minus 12. So I have to find the xy coordinate where they cross. Okay, so I go ahead and I make a table. You can either do it here on a piece of scratch paper, it doesn't matter. So I put the two equations down. Negative 3x minus y equals negative 2. And in the other equation we have 4y equals 12x, negative 12x, excuse me, minus 12. Okay, now let's look at our first one. 4y equals negative 12x minus 12. Now, y and x are both here. We want to isolate the y so it's by itself. So it's not by itself, so I put a multiplier on it. I make that minus a plus negative, and that's your y term, negative 1y, or 1 times y. You don't want that negative, so you have to apply the opposite rule. So I make 3x positive, the 1y is positive, which is the point, and then 2 is negative, or 2 is positive, excuse me. Now I got to take this 3x out of here. Before I divide by the 1, I have a 3x I need to subtract. So I subtract 3x and I make a 0x and subtract 3x from there. So I line up the equals and I have 1 times y. So 0 take away 3 is negative 3x. You want to do that first and then put your plus 2 and then divide everything by the 1, which is kind of pointless because it's just the same, but I'll do it, okay? So when we divide these both by 1, they just stay negative 3x plus 2. And now I have my m and I have my b. So the slope is negative 3 over 1, and the y-intercept is plus 2. So on the y-axis I go to 2. And then from that coordinate we go down 3, forward 1. So 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1, and I graph my line. Okay, then on the second equation, 4y equals negative 12x minus 12. Here's the y. It's not quite by itself. It has a multiplying number of 4. Okay, but unlike this one, there's nothing added outside, so I don't have to subtract or add, and it's positive, so you check. But you can go straight into your dividing, okay, by 4. So you're going to have y. Negative 12 divided by 4 is negative 3x. Remember, if it's a decimal, you leave it in fraction form. And then that's a negative 12 divided by a 4, and that's going to be negative 3. Minus, I make it plus negative, it's negative 3. MB that up, and you have the slope as negative 3 over 1, and then the y-intercept is negative 3. So I go to negative 3, 1, 2, 3. And then from there I go down 3 and forward 1. 1, 2, 3, 1, 1, 2, 3, 1. Now these lines are not going to cross because they had the same slope, and when the slopes are the same, we end up with parallel lines, which means there is no coordinate that they cross, and it's no solution. Okay, good. Next problem, we have y equals negative 1/2 x plus 2, and then y equals 1/2 x plus 6. That's a horrible 6, but it's 6 nonetheless. So on one side we have y equals negative 1/2 x plus 2, y equals 1/2 x plus 6. Okay, so y and x are here, but fortunately here now the y is by itself, so I can MB that right there. So slope is negative 1/2, and the y-intercept is plus 2. So on the y-axis I go 1. Remember, this is y, this is x. So you go up to 2. Then from there we go down 1, forward 2. Down 1, forward 2. Okay, in the second equation, we're fortunate again to have m and b right away because the y is by itself. So slope 1 over 2, and the y-intercept is plus 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. and then from there I go up 1 over 2. So these won't be parallel because the slopes weren't the same. One was down 1 over 2, this one's up 1 over 2. So they are going to cross. Now, you got to know how to mark the point where they cross. Okay, a lot of people aren't, not in this class necessarily, but over the years, a lot of people have struggled with that. So X, Y. So I marked the point myself where they cross, okay, and this is the X line. So remember, on the X line, 0's here, -1, -2, -3, -4. So I can stop at -4. That's my X. Then on the Y, 1, 2, 3, 4. You're at 4, okay? Now, if you're slightly off from that, no biggie, okay? 2, 3, 4. You just mark where you're close to, okay? You do you. Okay, and on the last graphing, we have 2y minus x equals 2, and in the other equation, we have y equals 2x, 1/2 x plus 1. Okay, so 2y minus x equals 2, and on the other one we have y equals 1/2 x plus 1. Okay, now in this equation, it's all about getting the y by itself. Well, y has a multiplier of 2. You can check mark it, okay, because it's positive. Now you do have this plus -1x out there you got to get rid of. So you add 1x, you make a 0x and add 1x there. So we have 2 times y. 0x plus 1x is 1x, and then plus the 2. Okay, now we're going to divide the whole equation by 2. Okay, 1 divided by 2 is a decimal, so we keep it as 1 over 2, no decimals. And then 2 divided by 2 is 1, so MB. Okay, so the y-intercept is 1. And then up 1 over 2, up 1 over 2. Okay, then in the other equation it goes pretty quickly. The y is by itself, and we have the MB, okay? So the slope, 1 over 2, and the y-intercept is positive 1. Well, the problem is I've already got a point at positive 1, and if I go up 1 over 2, this is the exact same line. That's when we have IMS, meaning infinitely many solutions. Okay, now solve without a graph. We have 4x plus 2y equals 7, y equals 5x. Now the first thing you need to do is set your coordinate up. Then, after that's been done, you circle your equals and look and see if you have either an x or a y by itself. It doesn't have to be just y. Well, in this one it is. There's a y by itself. So I use the substitution method. I put a box on my y, and that's called your base, and then you circle the other side. Now over here I write the off base equation, which is 4x plus 2y equals 7. Make sure the x and y have coefficients. They do, a 4 and a 2. Whatever the base letter is, that's where we put a parentheses, and we scribble it out and replace it with the expression 5x. So that gives us 4x plus 2, 5x equals 7. Okay, so we got to get rid of the parentheses, so we put a times dot, and then I distribute, okay? There's no plus in the parentheses, so it's just taking a 2 times a 5x, which is 10x, just one rainbow. So this is now 10x, and remember to add the 4x. So we combine our like terms of x, that would make 14x equals 7. And now I can solve for x. It just has the times of 14, so I divide by 14. Now 7 divided by 14 is a decimal, which is okay. It's 0.5, and that goes in for your x. Now to find the y, use the equation that's got the y by itself. Use your base equation. You'll be much happier. So 0.5 now goes in for x. So I have y equals 5 times 0.5. So y is by itself. I just need to come over here and do my operation of times. So I times first, and that's 2.5, and that's the only operation I have. So y is 2.5. Okay, in the next system, we have x plus 12y equals 68, and then we have x equals 8y minus 12. So I make two parentheses, and again, I have a base, so I use substitution because this x is all alone by itself. Base can be x just as well as y. It has to be y when you graph, but not in the other one. Now write the off base, okay, that's your base, label that. Write your off base, x plus 12y equals 68. Now you guys got to make sure on the off base that y has a coefficient of 12, x has a coefficient of 1. Then whatever the base is, which in this case it's x, we parenthesize the x and replace it with the expression 8y minus 12. Make it plus negative right there if you want. So you got 1, then you make a parentheses and you insert 8y plus negative 12. Then after the parentheses you have to add 12y and then equal it to 68. No, that's a y. What am I doing? It's y. It's 8y plus negative 12. So now we're good. We can solve for y. So I distribute. So if you want to drop your plus, do it. 1 times 8y is 8y. 1 times negative 12 is negative 12, and then you add the 12y that's outside. So I combine my y's together. 8 plus 12 is 20y, plus the negative 12 equals the 68. Now we have the y with a times, and so 2 more steps. You add 12, that would be 80. Then I divide each side by 20, and then y is equal to 4. Okay, now I solve for x. I use the equation that's got the x by itself, so x equals 8y minus 12. So 4 is going in for y now. So x equals 8, parentheses 4 minus 12. So x is here all by itself. I just got to do the operations. We have a times and a plus negative. So you times first, that's 32. Then you can either subtract 20 or add negative 20, and that's add 12, excuse me, and that's 20. Gave out the answer, so 24. Okay, and then in the last page, we have 5x minus 6y equals negative 32, and 3x plus 6y equals 48. So when I examine this equation, I'm not seeing any letter by itself. So I'm going to write an E for elimination, okay? That's when you underline it. You make kind of columns here, okay? And see if anything can add to 0, and that's a negative 6. 5 and 3 do not add to 0, but a negative 6 and a positive 6 do. There's my 0. That's good. I don't have to multiply that. So 5 plus 3 is 8x. And over on the other side, negative 32 plus 48 is 16. Well, the 0y takes out the y. Okay, the y is eliminated. Then you get 8 times x equals 16, so you divide by 8. And 16 divided by 8 is 2. So x is 2. Now to solve for y, there's no equation that's got y by itself, so just use the top equation. You can use either one. One's not better than the other. Just copy it down. So 2 goes in for x, because that's my answer for x. And I've got 5 times 2. We got to find 5 times 2 first, okay? 5 times 2 is 10, okay? So it's going to be 10 plus negative 6y equals negative 32. And now I can solve for y pretty easily. It's got a plus and a times. I take out the 10 by minusing 10. And that takes us to negative 42. Divided by negative 6, and I get 7. So y is equal to 7. Okay, last problem. 6x minus 3y equals 15, and then we have 7x plus 4y equals 10. So again, we do not have a letter by itself. We have to use the elimination method. Remember, this is a negative 3y. Well, those don't add to 0, and neither do those. Those aren't the same, those aren't the same, so you can't just change the signs, you have to multiply. So you're going to multiply this 6 by 7, and that means the rest of the equation has to be multiplied by 7. Now I also have to go to the bottom, and I have a 6, so I multiply by 6. So 6, 6, 6, 7, 7, 7. So 7 times 6x is 42x. 7 times negative 3y is negative 21y. And then 15 times 7 is 105. 7 times 6 is 42x. 4y times 6 is 24y. And then 10 times 6 is 60. Okay, let's line this up again. Now, it's true. Those will add to 0 if you make one of them into a negative. Well, there I just did it, but then I have to go through and make these the opposite too. So 24 is negative, 60 is negative, and you're always adding. So if I take a negative 21 plus a negative 24, that's negative 45y. And then if I take 105 plus negative 60, that's going to be 45. Then I divide each side by negative 45, and I get negative 1. Now, pick one of your equations. I'll go with the bottom. It doesn't matter, top or bottom. Let's go with top. Let's just be 6x plus negative 3y equals 15. So negative 1 is going in for y. Then I'll circle that because I need to multiply those. Negative 3 times negative 1 is 3. So we have 6x plus 3 equals 15. Now I'm good to go. Take out your 3 by minusing, which is 12. 6 times x equals 12. Then divide by 6. And 12 divided by 6 is 2.